Hey Leute, willkommen zurück zu Danganronpa in Case 3, immer noch im Strafprozess. Es ist auf jeden Fall richtig hardcore oder sehr kompliziert alles hier gemacht. Guck!
Most likely, Hifumi stole it off Taka's corpse after he died.
Huh? He stole it?
Where's your proof? Go ahead, show us.
Ich hab Beweise.
Ja, diesen Abrissen, der abgerissenen Zettel.
Ja.
I got it! When I searched Taka's body, I saw that his lifeless hand was gripping a small scrap of paper. If I'm right about this, the sheet of paper this piece came from is... I knew it! It fits perfectly with the note we found hidden on Hifumi.
Then Taka's scrap and Hifumi's note.
Yup, they're from the same piece of paper.
Hifumi had the note meant for Taka, while Taka's corpse still grasped a small piece of that note. There's only one way to explain it.
Ja, Junge,
ich weiß nicht, schon verständlich, aber ich meine nur.
Ich weiß nicht, was jetzt kommt. There's only one way to explain it.
Taka died clutching the note. Hifumi tried to free the note from his death grip.
Ja.
Leaving behind only one small scrap.
Na, so doof war die Hand einfach zu öffnen.
Did I get all that right?
That means Hifumi knew the note was important.
Exactly. Which proves that he was an accomplice in the murder.
Whoa. Yeah. After seeing all this, Hifumi was super involved in this whole thing for sure.
Hauptsache super.
In fact, he was behind the whole thing. In fact, he's still alive.
Was?
Sorry.
Nein.
No.
Ist der dumm?
When we found him in the repository, Hifumi was truly and completely dead. The second body discovered
Will doch
announcement
einfach, dass man ihn
proves
rauswirft. Also, dass du ihn hinrichtet.
Who killed Hifumi?
Ja, das ist, der hat sich selber umgebracht. Das ist doch eigentlich das Einzige, was Sinn macht, weil die Tür war ja abgeschlossen und niemand kam ja rein oder raus.
Whoever did is the mastermind, the true killer.
Ja, aber dann, da waren doch nur die zwei Leichen drin in dem Raum,
He
oder
was
nicht?
killed in the repository. So he must have been killed not long after transporting Taka's body.
So, he must have been killed after Taka's body vanished, but before we found both bodies in the repository.
Ja.
During that time, we'd all split up and were searching for Taka's missing body. In other words, during that time, none of us have alibis.
Das könnte also jeder gewesen sein.
Wait, but me and Sakura were together. Stop trying to steal the spotlight, you stupid walrus! Who are you calling a walrus?
Anyway,
Oh,
when they were killed bothers me too. But there's something that's been bothering me even more.
And what might that be?
The weapon they used to kill Hifumi.
Stimmt.
The weapon?
Stimmt.
Yeah, because I mean, according to the Monokuma file, the way Taka and Hifumi were killed was almost the same, with them having similar fractures and all. But Justice Hammer 3 and 4 were still laying around in the nurse's office and equipment room, right? So if Hifumi was killed in the repository, the culprit would have had to grab one of the hammers, kill Hifumi, then put the hammer back where they found it. But wouldn't that be seriously risky for him?
I'm surprised. It seems there's some semblance of a brain knocking around that skull of yours after all.
Hell yeah, it's packed in there good and tight.
He's right, though. I don't understand it either. The Monokuma file makes it clear that they were killed using similar instruments. But if the hammers were already laying around those other rooms...
So the question is, how could the culprit have gotten their hands on either of the hammers?
Da haben ja Hammer an der Wand gefehlt, aber er weiß nicht, ob der Hammer benutzt
Personally,
wurde.
I haven't a clue.
Jetzt war mir schon klar, dass du keine Ahnung hast. Ja komm, mach ich hier die Freetime von Chapter 2 mal weg.
So which hammer was used to attack Celeste? Number 1 or number 2?
Oh Gott, was weiß ich, was war's nochmal? Nummer 1 war's doch, oder?
Warte, so. Kannst du mal übersetzen?
Also welcher Hammer wurde benutzt, um Celeste anzugreifen? Nummer 1 oder Nummer 2? Es war doch Nummer 1 und Nummer 2 wurde dann benutzt, um Hifumi zu attackieren. Dann war Nummer 3 bei Hifumis toten Körper und Nummer 4 war bei Takas Körper.
Those were accounted for in other rooms too. And I don't think either one is big enough to kill someone.
Ja.
Then,
Stimmt, die Hammer waren eigentlich nicht groß genug, um jemanden umzubringen. Wenn ja der Mörder eigentlich hätte die umbringen wollen, die zwei hätten sie ja gleich hier 3 und 4 benutzt. Theoretisch.
Is it not possible they used a different weapon?
I don't think it is possible. They were both killed with the same kind of thing, right?
So then, what was used to kill Hifumi?
That was actually used to kill Hifumi. The whole picture surrounding this case won't become clear until we figure that out. Somehow I have to find the truth for a non-stop debate, oder? Yes. Make your argument. Wieder 3 oder nur 1? Okay, Spotless Hammer. Okay.
What was used to kill Hifumi?
Das ist
Was
falsch!
it Justice Hammer 3?
Nein.
Maybe Justice Hammer 4?
well, whatever it was, there's one thing we have to figure out. How was the culprit able to move around so freely with the weapon? How did nobody witness them carrying it?
Sounds like a Justice Hammer 5 is about to make its appearance! Check out murdergear.com/hammertime for more info!
Well, one thing seems pretty clear.
Da klingt das.
The murder weapon had to be one of the Justice Hammers!
Oh.
No, that's wrong.
Nee, aber zu dem Zeitpunkt langsam
Ja, ich weiß.
The murder weapon wasn't a justice hammer at all. No, it was something completely different.
Ja, aber an sich war das ja keine Aussage, wo sie getätigt hat. Die hat ja nur geraten. Und deswegen kann man ja nicht sagen, dass es falsch war.
Ach so.
Also denke ich jetzt mal, weil ich habe nicht ziemlich oft so, wo sie einfach nur geraten haben. Das war ja auch dann immer mal wieder falsch.
But, seriously? A different weapon?
Specifically, a hammer from the repository. The killer could have easily used that to kill Hifumi. Now, all the hammers in the repository were covered in flecks of grit and debris. But for some reason,
Stimmt.
one of them had been scrubbed clean.
Eine wurde sauber gemacht. Und da war scheiß Blut dran.
And the reason it had been scrubbed clean was most likely because it was used to commit murder. If the hammer got covered in Hifumi's blood, of course they'd have to clean it off. I'd also like to point out that the repository has all kinds of hammers. Big ones, small ones, and even some flat mallet-like ones. I think whoever made the Justice Hammers used those as a basis for their design.
If that's true, that would explain the Monokuma file's note about the wounds being similar.
So Hifumi moved Taka's body to the repository, where someone then used a hammer to kill him.
And whoever did that is the true killer. The one Hifumi was working with. And the one who betrayed him. Hold on a moment. I still think it's strange to assume someone was working together with him. The way the graduation rule works, there is no benefit to helping someone else carry
Ja,
out the
eben, das
murder.
ist es ja gerade.
So the idea that anyone would work together like that is simply ludicrous. We talked about this, did we not?
We did talk about there wouldn't be any reason for anyone to work together. At least that's what we thought at first, but... Dann kam die Non-Stop Debate. Der Hammer.
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit in the murder, only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. Assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
Das stimmt nicht.
That is how the rule was explained to us.
But that only really applies if there's one murder, right? In this case, however, there were two murders.
Can we really say there's no chance two people work together on this?
Based on the rules that have been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit in the murder, only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on
Schon
this.
klar.
Shoot!
Da gibt es aber nur eine Möglichkeit, Moment.
Based on the rules, even if more than one, only the one who actually, assuming the rule holds true.
That is.
But that only really applies if there's one murder, right? In this case, however, there were two murders.
Da muss ich das einsetzen, um die andere wegzuschießen. Das ist das Einzige, was eigentlich gehen könnte,
Based on the
oder?
rules that have been, even if more than one person is from, only the one who actually carried out the act can, assuming the rule holds true. It is.
No, that's wrong.
Hätte ich mir eigentlich schon denken können.
Since there were two murders, it's at least plausible that more than one person was involved.
What do you mean?
If there'd only been one murder, then yes, the idea of an accomplice isn't really worth considering. Naturally, if only one person can be saved per murder, an accomplice has no risk versus reward benefit.
Risk versus reward benefit?
The payoff for working together. The reward that balances out the risk of taking part in a scheme. There's no point in being someone's accomplice if there's no benefit to you. However, if there were some potential mutual reward for the risk, then cooperation becomes possible.
You're saying that two people could act as each other's accomplices to commit two separate murders.
I think that's what the true killer told Hifumi. They would each have an accomplice for their crime. And based on the case's events, Hifumi would have been the first one to act, murdering Taka. They made him carry out the first murder so he couldn't back out of helping them later on.
So in this case, there wasn't one single person committing multiple murders. Instead, each person killed someone, creating two separate incidents.
Also hat Hifumi Taka umgebracht und der richtige Mörder hat Hifumi umgebracht.
And it only looked like one person because that's how the true killer designed it to look. A single suspicious individual, a similar weapon used in each crime, disappearing bodies. By creating one seamless set of circumstances, they made it look like one person was behind it all.
The mastermind picked their target and managed to convince him to go along with their plan.
Das kann ich mir auch gut vorstellen. Ich glaube, es ist ziemlich leicht, Hifumi auf seine Seite zu holen.
And then, to avoid the no accomplices rule, they simply killed their accomplice. Which, if true, means that betraying Hifumi was part of the plan from the very beginning.
That's just awful. How could anyone be so cruel?
You think so? I can't help but admire its cunning. Still, their choice of accomplice seems odd.
Yeah. Never made to convince us the two murders were the same. That was the main characteristic this time. Kyoko must have noticed that fact from the very beginning, which is why she said not to look at this as a series of connected events, but entirely separate incidents. Kyoko really is amazing, although, when you think about it, she's almost too amazing. Like, it's almost unnatural how good she is at this.
I understand how an accomplice could be involved. But then, who was the one pulling Hifumi's strings?
Frag doch rum, vielleicht antwortet ihr ja einer.
That's problem numero uno right now.
True Killer manipulated Hifumi to carry out a number of actions and in the end murdered him. In the debates up till now, the way the case has unfolded, when you consider all that, there's really only one person who seems to fit. Ja, oh Gott, was weiß ich? Sakura, ja, Kyoko, ich glaube nicht die zwei. Aoi, glaube ich auch nicht. Ich glaube auch nicht, dass er das war. Glaube ich auch nicht. Sie, glaube... Es kommt nur eine in Frage.
Schon.
Here's my answer.
Die war nämlich die ganze Zeit, hat nämlich alles verneint, was wir alles gesagt haben, obwohl es so offensichtlich eigentlich war. Oh. Ich glaube mal, dass es richtig war. Weil, wir selber waren es offensichtlich nicht. Ich glaube nicht, dass Kyoko, Sakura und Aoi das waren. Yakuya glaube ich auch nicht. Und ich glaube, und Genocide Jill tötet ja eigentlich immer nur in eine Weise.
Ja,
glaube ich nicht.
mit der Hängen.
Ja, und dann mit den Scheren auch noch. Was soll das?
So I'm the suspicious individual now, am I?
Ist aber auch selber
I
schuld.
really do hate this kind of joke.
A joke? I wonder.
So what you are saying then is that I specifically chose to work together with Hifumi.
Ich glaube auch ehrlich, dass Hifumi ihr vertrauen würde.
The
Und mit ihr
idea
zusammenarbeiten
that I
würde.
would choose to spend any amount of time interacting with him, that I would go within 10 feet of that shit-brained, lazy, worthless, goddamn idiot! Pardonnez-moi.
Just to be clear, there is evidence to support it.
Ja, ist mir nicht aufgefallen, dass sie von
Is that so?
Klingt
It
eher
is.
Englisch.
Throughout the investigation, there was certain behavior that was common only to the two of you. Considering what we've learned so far, it only further proves that the two of you were working together.
What is that only Hifumi and Celeste had in common? Encountering the suspicious individual, the screaming, the paper hidden in Hifumi's pants. Das Schreien, die haben geschrien und haben den suspicious individual. Stimmt, sie haben beide den Roboter getroffen.
Got it! The behavior they had in common has to do with the suspicious individual in the suit, doesn't it?
Ich werde nochmal sprechen.
Du darfst alles voll.
Ich weiß. Das ist vor allem erst Chapter 3 und es gibt 6 Chapter.
The only ones who ever actually saw Robo-Justice firsthand were Celeste and Hifumi.
Shush. The adults are talking now.
Okay.
Sorry.
As he said, only Celeste and Hifumi ever laid eyes on the costumed individual. If we accept that Hifumi was one of the culprits, we can't help but suspect what Celeste has said as well.
Are you saying everything they told us was a lie?
After taking Hifumi to the nurse's office, we all began our search for this individual, correct?
Ja, stimmt. Und dann haben die den oben erst gar nicht gefunden, was ja gar keinen Sinn macht, weil es gibt ja nur einen Weg nach unten, den haben sie ja blockiert. Und der war irgendwo in einem Schrank dann drin.
And not too long after that, do you remember what Celeste said?
Saw a shadow, something moved around in the top of the stairs.
We headed to the second floor specifically because of what she claimed to have seen. Next, to draw us all to the physics lab up on the third floor,
She let out a blood-curdling scream.
and when we'd all come to see what was wrong, what was it she said?
That's what's wrong. That was a rather intense scream for someone like you. I saw him in a strange costumed man. He ran off as soon as I screamed. I was blocking the stairs, so he headed further down into the hallway and disappeared.
Once she'd done her job of getting us all up to the physics lab, it was time for her partner to get to work.
Yeah. What was that? I came from downstairs. It must have been. Hifumi, he's in the nurse's office. This is bad. Come on, we have to go back.
It was to get us to divide into two groups. So that we would discover both bodies at the same time?
In fact, Celeste was precisely the one who proposed that we split up.
Aber schon ganz schön schlau, ey. Then why don't we split into two groups? I'll lead the hunting party. That seems much more interesting. Very well, then Makoto and Hina, you come with me to the nurse's office. I will leave the capture of the suspicious individual to Toko, Byakuya, and Sakura.
Well, if Celeste and Hifumi were working together, all those chance events suddenly become connected. And on top of that, that piercing cry of yours early on. That was to signal Hifumi, wasn't it? It was your way of telling him, we're on the third floor, everything's going according to plan. Why else would you let out a scream that could have carried across the sea?
I just realized another strange thing.
Dass sie gar nicht mehr antwortet. Also das ist mir jetzt zumindest gerade aufgefallen. Sie versucht nicht mal was dagegen zu sagen.
When we found Hifumi in the nurse's office, who we now know was only pretending to be dead,
I certainly was not expecting this. I did not imagine that Hifumi would be murdered.
Celeste, you were the first one to say he'd been murdered. You wanted to make sure we wouldn't have any doubt in our minds.
I don't believe it. Everything. The whole thing was one big act.
Hina, you were with Celeste when Hifumi's body disappeared, right?
Yeah. I I was feeling kinda sick, so Celeste took me to the bathroom. Wait! Then that was...
She wasn't worried about you. She just saw a chance to help Hifumi sneak out of the nurse's office.
Each piece isn't much by itself, but start putting them together and the picture gets very ugly indeed.
Ich hoffe, dass ich das mit dem Comic nicht machen muss, weil das ist wirklich das Schlimmste. Du dir alles merken musst und dann ist alles richtig einordnen musst.
Wouldn't you agree, Celeste?
I have no idea what you mean.
Don't bother trying to deny it.
Ja, du hast 20 Minuten, glaube ich, Zeit.
You made one fatal mistake.
Oh, did I?
I didn't even catch it myself when you first said it, but
Oh, der
looking
kommt aber
back,
irgendwann.
I can say that that one little slip-up was your undoing.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about what you said after Hifumi's body disappeared and we returned to the nurse's office.
They must really be enjoying this. And enjoying the sight of us standing around frightened and confused. We're all going to die here. We're going to die just like those guys did. Oh, jetzt fällt's mir auf. Fällt's dir auch auf?
Those.
Ja, sie sagt extra,
Mehrere.
obwohl sie das gar nicht wusste mit Taka. Eigentlich.
I remember her saying that too, but I don't understand what's so strange about it.
Then pay attention. Sakura, Toko, and I were first to discover Taka's body in the equipment room. Then Makoto showed up and told us Hifumi had been killed. So Sakura and I left with Makoto. Once we were in the hall, we ran into Celeste, and the four of us headed to the nurse's office. Now, the entire time we were together, none of us said anything about Taka being dead. Think about it. Celeste's comment doesn't make sense. It was completely out of place.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Although I don't really get what it means.
You hear that, Celeste? Everyone's having some trouble understanding. Could you repeat what you said? If you're really not the culprit, you shouldn't have any problem repeating it, right?
Yakuya said that Celeste's comment doesn't make sense. But what is he alluding to? Ernsthaft, es gibt nochmal eine Runde?
Er kommt oft vor. So wie hier.
Eine Kuma-File. Ja, aber das ist jetzt nochmal so ein Fall kommt. Ich dachte, wir hätten es eigentlich jetzt gelöst.
All I said was... They must really be enjoying this.
Nein.
Enjoying the sight of us standing around, frightened and confused. They must be positively elated. We are all going to die here. We are going to die, just like those guys died.
Was? Ach, ich muss wieder irgendwas markieren. Okay, ich muss warten. Ja, ist okay.
All I said was they must really enjoying the sight of us standing out. They must be positive. We are all going to die here. We are going to die, just like those guys died. And that is all I said.
And that's all it takes to finish this. It's obvious, isn't it? What was so strange about Celeste's comment?
When you said that she should only have known about Hifumi's death. With that in mind, what's so strange about what she said is...
All I said was, they must really be enjoying this. Enjoying the sight of us standing around, frightened. They must be positively. We are all going to die here. We are going to die, just like those guys died. And that is all I said.
And that's all it takes to finish. What was so strange about Celeste's comment?
Ah, ich dachte, ich muss das jetzt ihm zeigen. Don't expect me to do the work for you, figure out yourself why your comment doesn't make any sense. There must be a contradiction there somewhere.
All I said was, they must really
warte.
enjoy the sight of us. They must be. We are going to die. And that is all.
And that's all it takes to... What was so strange about Celeste's comment?
Ich hab eine Idee. Ich bin so verwirrt, ey.
They must really enjoying the sight of us. They must be positive. We are all going to die here. We are going to die, just like.
No, that's wrong.
So wenig Leben.
Ja, ich weiß, ich lebe echt am Limit hier.
That's right. There's no reason Celeste should have said, just like those guys died.
Ah. Es ist eigentlich gar nicht so schwer. Aber es läuft halt auch alles auf Zeit. Ich weiß nicht, ob es dir aufgefallen ist.
Ja, oben und immer wenn du das Lila abschießt, kommt eine Sekunde.
Ja.
When she said that, none of us had told her Taka was dead.
Oh, ich muss die Folge beenden. Dann sehen wir uns hier beim nächsten Mal bei Danganronpa und ciao.